And now it's Deborah Kobylt Live.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on Deborah Kobylt Live. Okay, do you really want to grow your own fresh fruits and vegetables? And does it just seem daunting? Or have you tried and everything sort of just dies? Little critters get to it. I think this is a really important time to be looking at backyard gardens and growing our own fresh food. And joining me today is my friend, JoJami Tyler. JoJami is a backyard kitchen garden coach. The name of her company is PantsGardens. She'll talk to us about that in a minute, why it's called Fancy Pants. And before that, you were in the fashion industry for over 20 years. You've also led quite an interesting life growing up in Los Angeles. So, gosh, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Deborah. So nice to be here. It's so much fun to talk about this topic for me because it's been something that's been in my life for a long time. And I just think people don't know how to garden. And it's not that you have a brown thumb. It's just that you just don't know all the tips and tricks.
There's a lot of tips and tricks. You and I spoke a lot over the phone about it. And there's a lot I didn't know. And it's like, oh, no wonder my cilantro didn't grow. It's like, it's about the soil. It's about the time of year that you plant. And by the way, may I mention, I'm wearing green for you today for the garden. So here we go. And what are you wearing? You've got flowers on your shirt.
I sure do.
Oh,
have
beautiful.
to be on brand, right?
No, we're all on brand and ready to go. Okay. JoJami, talk to me a little bit about what you do and guide us through, now that we're coming into the summer, what to grow, when, and how to do it.
So there's three key components to getting started and to be successful. And it's really very simple. And the first thing is knowing where your sun is. We have to have sun. So many people fail because they say they put their garden on the side of the house where there's no sun. And we have to have at least 4, 6 to 8 hours of sun a day to really be successful in the garden. Number 2 is having really good soil. So I have a funny story when I was a young mom, and I was actually from LA originally, and my family moved to Delaware, and I never really gardened much back east. So I had a pot of marigolds on my back porch that I tried to grow. And the first year they were fine. And the second year they started looking dingy. And then by the third year they were just gone. And I just didn't know what I did wrong. I thought I had a brown thumb. But it turns out that your soil is so important, and the kind of soil you put in the ground is important, and to keep amending it, keep putting compost in it, keep putting good things to feed the soil. So that's another one. And then the third thing is just having the habit of getting out there on a regular basis and checking on your plants.
Now, so much depends upon, as you said, sun, but also where you live, right? I mean, let's say that you live in an area like I have a very shady backyard. So, gosh, can you hear me? Because I think I just lost some of my audio. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, good. I had to take my my headphones out. I think they were losing battery. So, I have a shady portion where I was gardening, and a lot of my stuff wasn't growing. The home we had before had a lot of sun, and it was, I think I told you, I used to grow corn, all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
And Deborah, what works also are raised beds, right? So talk to me about all of that people just might not realize. As you said, they're growing and nothing's growing. They don't know why.
Right. So normally in our yards, we're used to just putting in a bush or a tree or some grass, whatever. And when you decide to want to grow vegetables, this is a whole new ballgame. And you want to make sure you sort of contain it in a way that you can control it. So it doesn't matter where you live in the country. All these tips I'm going to give you today is applicable to anybody. And I don't really teach by your zone. What we do is we talk about frost. So it's really very easy. All you have to do is put the name of your town in Google and say, I'm Las Vegas. Las Vegas, first frost date, last frost date. Write those two things down and you're ready to go. Because most plants have either they're frost tolerant or they're heat tolerant. So anyway, that's getting a little complicated, but let's go back to the beds. Anyway, so you have these raised beds. You can put them in the area where there's the most sun. So that's number one. Number two, then you fill it with the really good soil. And then number three, you somehow get irrigation to it so that it gets watered on a regular basis. So it's contained and you can grow things that way.
I mean, you also need to drain the soil too, right? Because sometimes if they're enclosed, that's not so good either. Doesn't the soil need to drain with your irrigation?
So that's the part of getting the correct soil. Even with the raised beds, I don't put any kind of rocks or anything at the bottom of the raised bed. I fill it with a soil that's a mixture of three things: compost, topsoil, and sand. And the sand is going to be the part that helps the soil drain.
Isn't that interesting? These are things I just didn't know. Now, let's say you just go to your local garden store, your local Armstrong or Ace Hardware, or whatever. Do you ask one of the people who works there? Should you do your research first? Like, I am your typical person who will go in there, arena, if you will. Start us off.
So what you would do is, if there's different places that sell a soil mix, like a potting mix that you could buy that for your raised bed. But really the most economical way of doing it is just doing what I just said, going into your store and saying, I need, and it's just 3-3-3. I need 1 bag of topsoil, I need 1 bag of compost, and I need 1 bag of sand. Now the sand part is a little tricky because it's not play school sand. It's a coarse sand. It's a sand that you would use, that construction people use. And it's not the sand for concrete, because that you would not want to use, but it's basically just a plain coarse sand. And those 3 things together are going to give you the perfect mixture. Now, where I live, and actually I'm sure wherever you live, there's going to be some kind of a specialty nursery that you can call and they'll say, oh, we have a really wonderful vegetable mix soil that we just sell. And that's how you do it. And you just have it dumped on your driveway and you're ready to go fill your raised bed.
So it's already mixed for you.
Yes.
You don't have to sit there with a shovel and go, oh, a little of this, a little of that. I needed sort of foolproof. So I would probably look for the bag that's already mixed. That's me. In fact, I'm going to talk about what I would do, because I'm going to guess that I'm like a lot of people and they're like, wait, I don't know what to do. So that's what I think I'm going to do. Now, what about seasonal? Okay, growing your vegetables seasonally, and also where you live. You live in Vegas, a desert climate. I live in LA, which really is a desert climate, but I don't know, somehow it ended up that not so much.
It's a little different because you guys get more rain than we do. But basically what happens is that, and I think we should just take it where anybody is right now. So we're all going in the United States anyway, we're all going into the summer season. And so basically you want to plant things that love this sun. So we're talking obviously tomatoes, we're talking peppers, we're talking watermelons, anything like that. And our herbs we can use almost all year round. So those are the types of vegetables that you want to start now. Cucumbers are good for right now. So that being said, you also want to know, so what's so funny is that people are always thinking, oh, this is summer, I eat a lot of salad, I want to grow lettuces. Oh no. Lettuces are cool weather plants. Lettuces do not like heat. So we're not going to plant lettuces right now. We're going to wait a little while until the fall, and then we'll plant them in the fall.
Wait, I have a question. Should you buy little packets of seeds, or should you buy a little mini plant that's already there?
So that is such a great question, because it really depends on, number one, do you want Instagarden? So the easiest is to always buy a little plant. But if you're trying to be economical, the seed is fabulous. Now, there's some plants that are easier to start from seed than others. For instance, a thyme or rosemary plant are so much easier to just buy the plant of it. Like the herbs, just buy the plant of it. It's easy to do. Carrots are very tiny, tiny little seeds, but they actually are very easy to grow. So I guess, I can't go through every single one out there, but basically just do your research. And I have to say, if you're a beginner gardener, just go to the garden center and get your little plants. And then once you start that way, you can start researching and find out what plants are easier. For instance, beans, like a green bean, snap pea, these are bigger seeds and they're super easy. Just throw them in the ground.
How far in advance do you need to plant so that your fruits and veggies are ready for the summer? Like, should I have started now?
So right now is a great time to plant. Actually, in Las Vegas, we're almost too late. Maybe even Texas, where it's really, really hot. We're getting a little bit late. You could, if you had a small plant to put in, you could do so right now, but we're really getting too late. So what I would do if you wanted to start something right now is I would 100% start with just a little herb garden. And I don't know about you, Deborah, but have you gone to the grocery store and gotten those plastic things of fresh herbs when you want to cook something? And you get them home, and half the time they're brown in a day or two, and they're, and they're in plastic, and they are $4 a piece, and you get like 3 little stems. So herbs are the best way to go, because you could get a small pot, put it near your kitchen door, put it somewhere sunny, and just stuff it with as many herbs as you can.
Oh, I love that. So you can put them together.
You can put them together. And you know what else I do, because I like to do things fancy, is I always add a few little edible flowers, a little viola, a little marigold. So you've got this herb patch with some flowers in it, and it's gorgeous.
Gosh, I didn't know that. I just didn't realize that. How lovely. You can just put it by your kitchen window, so you don't need a yard. If you don't have a yard and you're in an apartment, you could just put it on your windowsill, which is what my mom used to do, actually. Mm-hmm. What about these vertical gardens?
Yeah, a vertical garden is great. It's an easy way. Again, I want to go back to what you just said about growing things on your balcony. I cannot tell you how much you can grow on a balcony, as long as it's getting sun. If it doesn't get a lot of sun, then you'll have to choose other plants. And you know what the cool thing about all of this is that there is a plant for everything. So if you have a lot of shade, okay, you might not be able to grow your tomatoes, but you can grow some lovely pollinator plants that are going to attract the birds and the bees and the things that need to be fed. So part of my mission is to educate people and encourage people to start a garden and have it anywhere you can, and grow whatever you can in your condition. And if you have a small space, that's not a problem. You just get your pots out there, and you could just stuff them, get them all filled up with as much as you can.
What can you grow in the shade?
Well, you can grow a lot of flowers that don't need, I'm just trying to think right now, because I don't do a lot of shade gardening, but you sort of throwing me on that one, but because I'm always talking about vegetables. But there are a lot of things that don't. Oh, I can tell you right now, even mint doesn't need a lot of sun.
That is very true. Mint is wonderful.
It's so easy to grow. It's almost a weed.
You know what I have seen? These, they sell them on Amazon, whatever. These, little portable garden things that you could have in your house, and they have a little light attached to them. What about that? If you just have do you like that or not really? You prefer
I tell you what I have found, that my clients end up using them, and they actually work too good. They're so good that they just become overflowing. You can't even use it up fast enough. And the other thing about it is they don't use soil, it's just water. And I feel that our soil is where we're getting our nutrition from our food. And so I really feel strongly that if you're going to be doing this, use soil and grow it traditionally without any kind of fertilizer. The fertilizer is a big thing too. Anything that is a chemical type fertilizer, you don't want to put in your vegetables for sure. You don't want to be eating them. So the best way to fertilize them is really just getting a bag of compost, worm castings, anything like that, anything more natural that you can put into your soil.
Now, the vertical ones, let's get back to that. I know a lot of people who have them because it's just easy, and in a way they don't forget about it out in their yard. If you're so busy, you might go, oh no, I didn't water my plants.
I tell you, the best time to use those is more for the cool season plants, because those are your lettuces, and those are so wonderful to grow in the vertical ones because they don't take up a lot of space. One of the things about growing vegetables is you sort of have to know what the outcome is. For instance, artichokes are so easy to grow. They come really cute. They're little in their little pots, but within a month, they are gigantic.
Oh.
They're huge. So they take up your whole bed. So you want to really understand what you're planting. So in the vertical ones, you want to do, your herbs, your lettuces, things that don't take up radishes, things that don't take up a lot of space.
Now, what should we be growing in the fall? Let's say our pumpkins, and talk to us about that.
So actually, your pumpkins are right now. They're a summer. They're like your watermelons and your pumpkins. So that's right now. But what happens is a pumpkin takes such a long time to come to become a big pumpkin that it will be ready. You want to do it now. You talked earlier about when to prepare. So if you want a pumpkin for October, you need to plant it now.
I'm glad I asked. I wouldn't have known all this. I mean, but because a pumpkin just doesn't magically appear, this big. It's got to have time to grow. I mean, I'm one of those people, especially if I had, my other house where I had a lot of sun, I would just, buy different seeds and little plants and put them in. And I used to tell people I got quite a green thumb because everything would grow. I probably just got I was lucky, got the right soil, got the right environment. One thing I grew beautifully was corn. I mean, I felt like Farmer Deborah. You know what I mean?
I have to tell you, I'm so impressed when you told me you grew corn. I am a master gardener, and we have been trying to grow corn here in Vegas. It is possible. People have done it, but we haven't had a lot of success with it here. So it's so funny how some people have success with things. I actually have another thing. Radishes are the easiest things to grow, and I can't grow a radish to save my life.
Well, I'll just give you a few tips when we're done with the show, how I grow my corn.
That would be great.
Honestly, I'm like, you should call me the lucky gardener, because when stuff grows, I go out there and I'm like, I have no idea how this happened. I just put it in. I got some good soil. I water it when I remember, and I'm off to the races.
California is almost foolproof, basically.
Yeah, I need to get the raised beds because I have a good sized yard, but it's got a lot of shade back there. We've got big trees. I'm like, oh, come on. So I'm going to get some raised beds. I might even put them in the front of my house because I really enjoy gardening. I want to have stuff that's fresh. I want to know what's in it. And quite frankly, it's so expensive at the store. I can't even believe how expensive fruits and veggies are. And I think of, average families of 4 or more. And I'm thinking, how are people affording this stuff?
I wanted to share with you something that I think is really important for your audience to know when you're going to choose what you want to grow. And that is a list called the Dirty Dozen. And these are the top vegetables and fruits that from 1 to 10 worst that has been applied a lot of pesticides on, all the way down. So the number 1 is strawberries. That's absolutely. And that is because it's grown mostly on the ground, and it's easy for the pest to get to. So that's that is the thing you're going to eat that has the most pesticides on it. So I would never even get strawberries if they weren't organic. And even then it's shady. Yeah. We're talking number 2 is all the lettuces and spinaches. So once
again, they're in the ground. So,
and then we've got grapes, but we don't really grapes. Well, you can do a grapevine. Grapes have a lot of pesticides on them. Peaches, nectarines, apples, bell peppers, cherries, blueberries, and the last one is green beans.
This is making me feel,
I know, but these are all things you can grow.
These are all things you can grow. And you try to buy organic, but you're right. What does organic really mean? Could it be organic with pesticide? You know what I mean? Like, you just don't quite know how they're using the word organic. I do like to go to my local farmer's market. That I do like to do. And I'm hoping that there are no pesticides. Often it'll say no pesticides, but still a lot of times they spray it with something. Otherwise, sometimes there's so many critters that eat their crops that they would end up with nothing. Best bet is to grow your own, people. That's why I have JoJami on, because you're guiding us through that. Go ahead. You were going to say something. I cut you off.
Well, I just wanted to say that when we chatted earlier, you mentioned you wanted to grow some blueberries. And I thought, okay, I'm going to just walk you through what it would be like to grow a blueberry and have success with it. So the first thing is you want to know what area you're in, because there's a lot of varieties. So that's another big thing, is picking the variety for your area. And and number 2 is blueberries like acidic soil. So I don't know if you know this, that like azaleas love acidic soil. So if you were to get blueberries, you would find a potting soil that would be good for azaleas. Usually you can find it that way. And so then you want to put your blueberry probably in a big giant pot, maybe even a wine barrel, something big. Again, you can contain it. Blueberries, there are very few versions of them that are self-pollinating, but the majority of blueberries are not self-pollinating. Now that means that if you get the non-self-pollinating blueberry, you need 2 of them because they have to talk to each other. So you could easily buy a blueberry and get home and it never works. And you're thinking, what did I do wrong? And all it was is that you got the variety that needed to be pollinated. So you would have needed 2. So this is what I'm trying to go through so people can start thinking, what can I do to make sure I have success? And it's not hard. It's just knowing the right things to know. The thing about blueberries is that You don't want to plant them too deep. They like to be planted up high so that the root is a little bit peeking out to the top. That goes for the same thing for strawberries as well. They like to be planted up high. And then, of course, blueberries actually like morning light and afternoon shade. So you might want to look at that. If you're in an area that doesn't get any sun in the morning, but it gets a lot of sun in the afternoon, you might want to put that pot somewhere else. And finally, they actually need quite a bit of water to get them set. So you want to make sure that you're watering it enough to make sure that they really soak it all in.
Yeah,
so
that's good. Where's the book, JoJami?
It's coming.
No, but I'm serious. Make it simple for people the way you're making it simple on my show, right? If you make it simple, people will want to do it. When it gets so complicated, because I've gone to stores and this person is lovely, but they're such an expert talking to a complete novice. And I leave there like shaking my head going, wait, what am I supposed to do? So I love that you make it easy for all of us to figure out how to do this. You know what's really a big deal now? Everybody always talks about, right? Ginger, cayenne, turmeric. What's the best way to grow those? Can you grow them all year round? I mean, talk to us about that.
Okay, so let's just take ginger because that's a very popular one. That's super easy. If you get some organic ginger now, if you go to the regular store, they are going to put some kind of a coating on it so that it doesn't sprout. But the thing is that you want it to sprout. So you want to go get an organic one, let it sit in a drawer in a dark space until it has a little sprout coming out of it that you would possibly throw it away at that point. But no, you want to keep it. Then you want to put it in a pot and let that little sprout come out and keep that inside. You don't want it to go outside, near a window, and then let it sprout. And then once it gets some leaves on it, then you can take it and put it back outside. And that is also, that one is it's a warm to hot weather plant. So you can use it that way too. So really right now is a great time to get your ginger sprouted. And once you get you can have one piece of ginger, cut it up in 3 or 4 pieces, and then you have a bunch of ginger for the rest of the year.
I love it. Broccoli, my favorite. Talk to me about
broccoli
that.
Broccoli is a cool weather plant. So we're going to wait till fall. And broccoli also is one that I would say is better to get as a plant than a seed. You can certainly do it as a seed, but you'd have to really prepare and be months ahead of time with that. And so I would say definitely just get the small plant. There's no special instructions for you for that one. You just put that in the ground with some really good soil, water it, and you will have broccoli. And let me tell you, Deborah, at the end of the day, when it gets too hot for broccoli and it doesn't want to be growing anymore, it shoots up these beautiful yellow flowers that are edible. They're edible and they're gorgeous. You can just pick them and put those in your salad. Broccoli is so easy.
I know. Broccoli is just saying, no, I'm not dead yet. Now I've got... Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. You know, you weren't always a gardener or fancy pants. What did you do? And I'm sure that you always did it and enjoyed it, but just not necessarily as a career. What were you doing before this? I believe that you were in the fashion industry. I mean, you grew up with a very, very creative family. Can we talk a little bit about that and your fashion career and even sort of motorhoming throughout the country? You've had quite an interesting life.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, I was really lucky to have a family in LA. My father was an actor. You might have seen him on The Dukes of Hazzard. He played Roscoe P. Coltrane. My mother was a ballet teacher. So the two of them were very creative. And my dad ended up doing a movie in Jackson, Mississippi, and loved it, loved the area so much that he picked up our family and moved us to Mississippi, of all things. So I've had this glamorous life in LA, this down home Southern time in Mississippi, which is where I have to say I had one of my good best friends from the ballet school lived out in the country and had a farm. And I found out that green beans come from a plant. I had only known it from a can before that. So that is really where I got my start with the gardening, was my girlfriend's garden. And we go out there and her mother would send us out there and go pick some beans for supper. So that's what we would do. And so that was a really interesting time to be in Mississippi. And then when I met my husband, we moved back east to Delaware. And of course, that is such a beautiful area to be growing things. And I ended up having a friend of mine up the hill when after I had my marigold disaster. I saw this gal up the hill from me gardening, and she had a gorgeous vegetable garden. And I ran up there and introduced myself to her, and she took me under her wing and taught me about composting and gardening and all these things. And that really sent me off. So I've always had this inner love of nature. And so then I was doing fashion also. I had an image consultant business, and I had the fashion blog, fabulousafter40.com, for almost 20 years with a friend of mine. So we did that. So I've always called myself a tree hugger in high heels.
I love that. The tree hugger in high heels. That's quite a sight.
I might have that as my tagline. I haven't ever used it before.
The tree hugger in high heels. That's fantastic. No, that's all yours, and you better get it right now, because somebody else love that. It wouldn't be me. I'm not a tree hugger in high heels, but somebody that's just great. So, you were doing fashion. You always had this great interest in growing veggies, but you also were living, you have 2 kids who are older now, but you also took the show on the road, right? And how did it end up that for 11 years, you and your husband were in a motor coach, just sort of going about the country? I think that's so cool. A lot of people do that for a summer, maybe a year, but 11 years on the road? Talk to me about that.
Had no idea, had barely been camping my whole life, never been in a motorhome before. But my husband and I, because we'd lived all over the country, we sort of knew that 20 years in Delaware, we're ready to try something new, try to go somewhere new. So let's just go around the country. The easiest way we thought would be in a motorhome and just check it out and see where we might want to live. And so 1 year turned into 2, and then it was always the summers, where could we go for the summer? And it just kept every year, 1 more year, 1 more year. Luckily, I've been married happily for 40 years, and almost felt like a honeymoon for us. We had such a good time together. We love to hike, we love to bike, and we love adventure, and we love exploring, and we love food. So we did all of that. And on top of everything, we could lock up that coach and run off to Europe or wherever for whenever we wanted. So it was quite a very enriching experience, and I highly recommend it. But we had bought a used coach to the beginning with, because we thought, I don't know if it's going to be 2 weeks or 2 years, right? So we want to be able to get rid of it. But after a while, a few years in, we ended up getting a bigger, nicer one. And it was really a lot of fun.
Wow. Did you keep your home or apartment or whatever that you had in Delaware? No.
No, we sold everything, and our poor children. One of them was done with college, but the other one was still in college. So she had nowhere to go home. So I always say to parents, if you don't want your kids to come home after college, just get a motor coach, because it's not going to really be possible. So they've both gone on to good careers and independence. And I think that might have been part of it.
Oh, I love that. Me, it's like I always keep a room for each kid. And I'm like, why am I doing that? They're off in college and beyond. Like, they could figure it out themselves. But I love this idea and the kids have done just great, to just go off and explore. Gosh, was there anything in particular that always sits with you from that trip?
It's so funny. People always say, what was your favorite place? And my answer was wherever I was. And let me tell you, the reason why I say that is one time we were in the middle of Texas, and it was literally a town. I don't even know the name. I know the name of it. It was called Paradise, Texas. It had 1 stoplight and a tumbleweed, but a beautiful welcome center. So we went into the welcome center, and the guy was like, welcome to Paradise. And I found out that, he was born and raised there, and he just loved it. So my takeaway from this was that most people love where they live, no matter where it is. So yeah. I think that's a good message for life. Like, wherever you end up, I did not think I was going to end up in Vegas, that's for sure. But Vegas has ended up being a beautiful place. I had no idea you could garden. So with everything here, you can grow anything and everything here almost, except for things that need cold, like peonies. But other than that, you can grow almost anything. And I love the culture of the arts and the music. And it's got a great airport. We can jump on a plane and go international anywhere. It's pretty central. So anyway, it's ended up being a good place for us. We're enjoying it.
Yeah, you and I met at the Influencers of Midlife conference, which was a lot of fun, put on by our friend Robin. So that was great fun. And you're right. I mean, I know Vegas because my sister lives there, and people only think of the Strip. Guys, it's kind of like thinking of LA as Hollywood Boulevard.
it's just, there's just a lot more to these places than the Strip or Hollywood Boulevard or anything for that matter. People think in New York and they only think in Manhattan. But gosh, there's upstate New York. I mean, there's, I grew up in my early life in New Jersey. Well, what's New Jersey called? The Garden State. And
Right.
people are garden because all they can think about is when they get off at Newark Airport and, you see all the factories there. It's like, well, not really. It's called the Garden State for a reason. There's a lot of gardening there. So, sometimes it's good to get rid of those preconceived notions that people would have. Gosh, anything else that you'd like to add to our show? How can people get in touch with you? Do you do any private consultations for people like myself who might need a little help? Talk to us about that.
So I do consultations via Zoom if you're not in Las Vegas. So I love doing that, and I can get you through, get you started, help you pick the right spot for your garden, help give you a list of what you need to be growing right now. When you want to start a garden, there's 3 things you really want to ask yourself. And that is, it's why are you doing this? Like, what is it that you want to get out of your garden? And where are you going to put your garden? And who's going to be enjoying the garden? Are you going to be the one tending it? Are you going to be the one setting it up? Are you going to be the one planting? So all these questions, you really want to prepare yourself before you get started. And that's one of those things that I can come in and help you with.
Yeah, I just want to mention very briefly, you said, why do you want to start a garden? It's great for your mental health, people. There's something beautiful about going outside, whether it's in a raised bed, on a porch, balcony, in a yard, and putting your hands in the dirt and getting with, you're one with nature and you're outside, you're listening to the birds or something. And it really is great for your mental health too. So let's not forget that. I think that's really,
it's a huge thing for mental health. As a matter of fact, I just spoke at a mental health festival last week, and they asked me to come in because I knew the importance of it. And it's so funny when I think about gardening. When I was a little kid, I loved to play in the sandbox. Didn't we all? And it's, as an adult, you get a raised bed and you get a trowel and you get to play in the sandbox, and everybody don't think you're crazy. You're just out there having a good time. It's a lot of play. You can think of gardening as a chore, or you can think of it as play. And it's also very nurturing, because every day I love to go out in the morning with my coffee and I check on my little plants and see how much they've grown, and my little tomatoes are popping out right now, and my tomatillas are coming out. You can grow things that you can't normally maybe even find in a grocery store. I just learned about a new vegetable called kohlrabi. I've never heard of it before.
Well, I have, because you told me about it earlier.
Okay, right.
I'm cheating a little. Go ahead.
But you should look it up. It's the most beautiful plant. It's the cross between a cabbage and a radish, basically. You could peel it, roast it, eat it raw, but it's a delicious and fun to grow vegetable. That's another thing about gardening. It's such a community building. You could take your extra lemons from your lemon tree or tomatoes and hand them out to your neighbors or your friends. You're going to be the hit of the party when you show up at your next cocktail party, instead of with a bottle of wine, maybe with a bucket of a little batch of herbs, fresh herbs from your garden. It's just
great tip. That's beautiful. I have beautiful lemons in my yard. In fact, I used to have lemons, apples, pomegranate, pears, but in the rains we had some gigantic eucalyptus fall on our yard, and I lost a lot of my trees. The only one that survived was my lemon tree. I had beautiful oranges too. I can't seem to grow them again though. I don't know what's going on. But
you got to fertilize them.
Yeah, but you can also do the oranges, right? And in pots, right?
Yes.
The little trees. So I did go out and do that. So I'm hopeful that I get some mini oranges there. There's so many ways to do this. So they can look you up right on social media and website. Could you give a shout out to all that?
Yes. So on social media, I just use my name because it's so much easier. JoJami, JoJami, at JoJami on Facebook and Instagram. And then my website is PantsGardens.com.
And the fancy pants is because you were in the fashion industry wearing the fancy pants.
That's right.
There it is. They're right there. Fancy pants. That's beautiful. I love it. I think that's adorable. I love the meaning behind the name. So ladies, get on your fancy pants, and guys, and go outside and garden. Whatever whatever you love to eat, just make sure it's in season. You got the right soil and the sun, and hopefully you'll be growing something that you can eat.
I tell you what, nobody has a green thumb, a brown thumb. Nobody has a brown thumb. Everybody can. Sorry, I was.
Wait, what?
Nobody has a brown thumb. We can all do this. It's just knowing a few simple tips and tricks.
Yeah. Thank you so much, JoJami. It was delightful to have you on. I think it's such a timely interview. I really do. I have friends I know who are watching because they've been telling me that they want to garden. I'm like, just watch my show. Get in touch with JoJami. This is a fun thing to do. We can even do it together. You know, there's book clubs. What about a gardening club? You know,
absolutely.
Absolutely fun.
Definitely.
All right, everybody.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
It was great fun, because you make it fun and you make it easy. So please look up JoJami at JoJami. And if you have any questions, write to her on Instagram. A lot of people write to me on Instagram. It's a great way for me to get in touch with people. So do that. Look up her website, Fancy Pants. And you can find our show with JoJami on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We post our promos there. And then in the audio version as well on iHeartRadio and Amazon and Apple and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just look us up, Deborah Kobylt Live and JoJami, and you'll find her interview. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And of course to you. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me and the platform you give to all of your guests. And I had to tell you, I have been binge watching and listening to your show. And you have so many wonderful people. It's been so much fun. I thank you for what you do.
Oh, gosh. Thank you so much. Please tell your friends. That's just wonderful. Thank you very much. Anyway, everybody, we'll see you next time. And